Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, one game in the NFL tonight, wrapping up the Week 10 action. The Dolphins are traveling to L.A. to take on the Rams. Right now, the Rams are favored by 2.5 kickoff at 5:15. Some good news for an already injury-riddled Buccaneers team. All-pro left tackle Tristan Wirfs. He only suffered a sprained MCL in their game against the 49ers on Sunday. He is expected to miss multiple weeks, but the injury will not be season-ending as originally worried about. Florida State announced that they are dismissing their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and wide receiver coach after their 52-3 loss to Notre Dame on Saturday. Florida State is currently on pace for their worst football season since 1974. In the NBA, Thunder big Chet Holmgren left Sunday's game against the Golden State Warriors after he suffered a pelvic fracture during a hard fall. Holmgren's status will be provided in 8 to 10 weeks. The injury is not expected to be season-ending. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new long-sleeve tee and hoodies in your favorite college colors. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. This is Danny and Dusty.
Meringatang is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it go.
The old Danny meringue pie?
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Good afternoon! Hey, welcome in. Happy Monday, everybody.
You don't tell me what to do.
Well, I will tell you what to do. I will tell you to have a happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service to our country, Mr. Meringue. It is Veterans Day,
It is.
and you are a veteran yourself, so thank you, my man.
No worries, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate every veteran that is sacrificed, not just their lives, but really even you and the life that you gave up as a public citizen or a private citizen to be a public servant for all of those years. That's what we celebrate today is Veterans Day. And all of the veterans here and those that are, still overseas, some of them, whether they are active or retired and living overseas. Thank you to everybody who served our country.
Yeah, no, this is the one where you say Happy Veterans Day.
That's right.
Not Happy Memorial Day.
Remember Memorial Day.
Yes. Celebrate Veterans Day.
Yes.
It's a very, very simple thing. I'm not a stickler for many things. The Happy Memorial Day one is like,
yeah,
chill on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the
Memorial Day is the day we remember those who died.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like I said, I'm not the holiday Nazi on really anything.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say Merry Christmas, say Merry Christmas. You want to say Happy Holidays, whatever. I don't care. But like on this one, it's like Happy Veterans Day, not Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Other than
thank
that,
you.
We're good.
Thank you to every single vet that is listening to us, that has served our country. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart, all of our hearts. We appreciate you, and thank you so much. This is one of those days that I think that everybody can agree it is a worthwhile day to have our entire country pause and take note of everybody who has served our country, sacrificed for our country, and everything that goes into being a public servant of that magnitude as a veteran for our United States military. Thank you, everybody, for serving our country. So, and that includes you, Mr. Meringue. It includes you,
Regardless of whether or not I want to be included.
Well, you have to be.
I know. It's one of those.
You don't have a choice in this.
It's one of those weird things.
This is a hug from Grandma. You have no choice.
It's even though I've heard it a million times,
Mm-hmm.
it's always like it doesn't feel bad. It feels weird anytime I get, hey, thanks for your service or appreciate you, but whatever it is.
Yep.
And I'm always just kind of like, okay, cool. Like it's one of those things that's like, I know that less than 1% of the entire population, for those who don't know, less than 1% of the entire population is military. or has served, active
Yeah.
or retired or veteran status. That's how
That's
that's
crazy.
how few of us there actually are. So even though you think like everybody like, oh, I know somebody who's in the military, it's like it's literally less than 1% of the entire population. It's very
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, when you think about it, well, that number is getting smaller.
It's getting smaller.
Getting smaller.
Like, I mean, the number of guys, I mean, they're having trouble keeping people in, mostly because leadership sucks. But, you know, it's one of those things I've always, like, for me, I don't come from, I've mentioned this before, I don't come from, like, a long lineage of military service in my family. Like, my parents were hippies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have grandpappies that fought in World War II and World War, like none of that. Like it was 9/11 happened. I was going to go to business school, and hilariously, I was probably going to end up at Oregon. 9/11 happened, and it changed my life. And you know, I felt like I needed to do something that didn't make me better or worse than anybody else. It was just all of a sudden it was like I need to do something, and I went down that path. And so it's always not interesting. I don't know. I've never been able to like fully grasp the whole service part of it in the sense of, you know, how other people look at it because I was on the other side of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, look, just because you didn't go, I don't think to be honest, I've never thought any less of anybody else for not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think of me as any better. It's just I went down a different path. That's how I look at it more than anything else. It's like,
I think there's a lot of guys that are in your shoes, though, because of you being uniquely positioned with the year that you graduated from high school.
Yeah.
Being, you know, that class of 2002, the 9/11 was the
Literally
fall
my
of your
senior
senior year of high school. Yeah. So that I think there's a lot of people that are in your position right there where that happened. It was a pivot point in our entire country, and a lot of guys did the exact same thing. And me just being like a year in school after you, it was not quite that gravitational pull.
No.
Even though there were a lot of guys that I know that's the path that they chose as well. I mean, I think that there's kind of that window of guys that entered service in, you know, 2001, 2, 3, and 4 that 9/11 was like, boom.
Yeah, that was the thing.
That's the calling for you. You picked up the phone, you went and you did it.
And then enough videos got out of us getting blown up left, right, and center that people were like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Turns out war, not fun.
Not good. Not
no,
good.
And this, you know, the past, you know, the quote unquote global war on terror, unfortunately had it in 4K.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, look, it's being in, like, this is going to get so philosophical. Being in war is not something anybody should ever want. It's like it's not a fun thing. I guess I've been, you know, blown up, stabbed, thrown in a vehicle, and shrapnel, and awful, terrible things that have happened to me, and that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And it's one of those things of like, I don't know. It's you know, every time I think about it, it's very interesting in the sense of, as much as I always say, particularly doing the radio job now, I've never woken up once and not wanted to go to work because I love what I do here. In the same vein, every single day I get up, and despite all of the terrible crap that I went through, I miss that job, that world.
Yeah.
Every single day, even now.
Really?
Every single day. At some point in time during the day, I will reminisce or think about or remember something. Something will happen or remind me of something that happened 20 years ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah. You know, and it's just, there's something so different about that career, that lifestyle, that nothing in the world can even come close to replicating.
No, you hear it a lot of time in sports too, guys always chasing that camaraderie of a locker room too, because other people don't know and don't remember what it's like to be in there.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and again,
and yours is amplified tenfold because it literally is life or death.
And the thing is like, it's a dark joke because of the military, but it's quite literally trauma bonding.
Yeah.
It's by definition, it is trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shared experience of trauma that brings you together.
Yeah.
And it's, you know,
explains a lot about you.
You know, it's the thing like my best friends today. I mean, still are those guys, you know, and it's even though we're scattered all over the world, you know, the group chat has been popping all morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things it's very unique.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you. You could drop that in your group chat too. Thank you to all of your fellow patriots that served our country. So thank you very much, man.
It'd be the nicest thing said in the group chat this morning for sure.
All right.
Well,
we can muddy that up a little bit.
The deepest, darkest depravity that you can imagine, and then take it like 10 steps further.
Sounds about right.
The military does it right.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. All right. Hey, if you want any veteran shout-outs, go ahead. Text us Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. Something I like to do on Veterans Day. If you got a veteran, we'll shout them out, man. We will shout them out. Text us who they are, and we will shout out your veterans on the Vancouver Ford text line, or you could throw them in the YouTube chat as well. YouTube.com/1080 AM The Fan. We got sports that we got to get to today as well. Boiling points across the sports world. I think we have them in Dallas.
Good Lord.
I think we have them in New York with the Jets. I think we also have them in Chicago with the Bears.
The Bears.
Do we have one in Portland?
Yeah.
With the Portland Trailblazers. Boy, this is early to do this. 11 games in?
Yeah, it's
we 11 games in?
Monday the 11th and 11 games in.
Yeah. 11 games in on the 11th day of November, the 11th month of the year, and boy, oh boy.
11-11, make a wish.
There's a lot of people making wishes right now, and one of them is Chauncey Billups that his team shows up for their next game.
Yeah.
That was ugly.
It was bad.
That was really ugly last night.
There's a lot to parse through.
Okay, we got to get through that. We have carnage across the college football landscape this weekend.
Lord,
yeah. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Mario Cristobal's team was favored heavily, and
we talked about it on Friday.
They went on the road, and they lost a game. And he used a timeout at a point where everybody went, wait,
what?
Why? Why are you? And then his team didn't have a timeout at the end of the game that they could have used.
And Haynes King
ran the ball. He ran the ball.
Run the ball.
And he did. Yep. Miami goes down. Georgia goes down.
Can I give you my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat thing that's going to happen for you to noodle on over the next little bit for you to think about and then we can talk about?
Yep.
The further through the schedule we get and the more stuff happens, the Ole Miss Georgias of the world, the Miamis of the world falling off, the more you are going to hear Oregon hasn't played anyone other than Ohio State. Their path is too easy. It's going to become a conversation. I almost guarantee it's going to become a talking point from the SEC of they didn't have to play anybody. Look at this. Look at what's happening in the SEC.
I have a counterpoint to that. Texas is ranked 3rd in the AP poll. What is Texas's best win?
Oh, I know. But again, what conference is Texas in?
Yeah, I know. But Texas is I dare you to go and look at that.
I know.
If that conversation happens, you can just point to Texas and be
I'm with you.
Is it against unranked Michigan? Is it against unranked Oklahoma? Or is it Colorado State? Or is it Vanderbilt?
The Alabama media, they're already doing the whole Bama has 4 wins against AP top 25 ranked teams currently right now. And in the top 25, I want to say it's 3. And Oregon has 2 of them.
Look, I'm 100% not saying it's right because you can only play who's in front of you.
Yeah.
But it is an argument that is going to start. It is 100%
and it doesn't have legs though.
Oh.
It does not.
They'll bolt some legs onto it in the SEC, baby. Are you kidding me?
It's going to start against Indiana. That's who's going to get it.
Indiana does deserve it. And we'll talk about all of this because of the carnage that did happen in Indiana played Michigan, and that game played out about how I thought it would. It was not a drubbing because up front, Indiana has not seen a team like Michigan, and Michigan ground them to a halt. I mean, there's 20-15. They've been scoring 40 and 50 every single week. And there is credence to there are some bad teams in the Big Ten. But there's also some bad teams in the SEC, too. There's bad teams everywhere across college football. That's why the portal has been great. That is why NIL has been great. It has truly leveled the playing field. And the Big Ten and the SEC aren't the ones that need to be fighting with each other. It is, you need to look at conferences like the ACC and the Big 12 and say, they don't deserve two teams because they might get two. That's going to be where this thing gets real tricky. We'll go down an SEC nightmare scenario at some point during the show too. Where we got to start though, you mentioned it. There will be people that say Oregon outside of Ohio State, which I would say beating the number 2 team in the country is a pretty big win. Outside of Ohio State, Oregon hasn't beat anybody yet. Well, the number 1 team in the land had a bit of a clunky game against the Maryland Terrapins on Saturday night. We'll dive into that one coming up next. This is Danny Dusty on The Fan. Over the weekend, 38-19, 21-point victory. Kind of a clunky game, though. A weird rhythm to the start of that game for the Oregon Ducks, and it kind of played out throughout the entirety of the 60 minutes of football where the offense struggled to get going. It was kind of one of those, there was long stretches where the offense just wasn't even on the field at times, because you had the Brandon Johnson scoop and score.
Mm-hmm.
There was 7 minutes and 51 seconds of game time. So think of how long that is, right? If a 60-minute football game is usually, 3.5 hours long?
Yeah.
That's what we're really going with there. That was a half of a quarter, over half. It was 7 minutes, 51 seconds. That's, more than half a quarter of game time. Their offense was probably off the field for a half hour?
Yeah, God. That's a long time.
It was a long time. It was weird.
You get tight.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you got to get the hip mobility work on the sideline.
It was a super weird rhythm to the game where, Oregon's defense looks like they come out and they make a stop on the opening drive, and then boom, a roughing the kicker. What'd you think of that roughing the kicker call? Where the punter drops the ball, it's on the ground, he picks it up, Dalen Austin comes in, kind of wraps him up as he's kicking the ball away. I still have not gotten a definitive.
I feel like if the ball hits the ground, it should be kind of an all bets are off situation.
Yeah, the ruling was that the punter established himself as a kicker again after dropping the ball, and because Austin didn't tip the kick, it was deemed roughing the kicker.
Then if that's the case, you know what you should do? To get these Aussie rules punters and have them grab the ball and throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
And pick it back up and then just shuffle and kick, because you know what's going to happen?
They're going to get hit.
You're going to get hit and you're going to get a flag and you're going to get a first down. Because if you want to talk about taking advantage of it, there was who was the kicker? Was it last weekend where that happened? Where it was an Aussie rules kicker that ended up making a massive big play where the ball bounced and he faked the kick, got the guy to commit on the dive and took it off for a 30-yard run.
Little hesitate.
He got smoked, absolutely smoked on the sideline. It was it might have been a Conference USA game. It wasn't a big game, but I just remember watching that play. It was another Australian kicker who was like, "I'm a rugby guy. I'll
take off and go.
I'm down to clown, but it was. I thought the same thing, but I thought he was very smart in that he used it against the player in much the same way that who was it Josh Allen that did the fake slide?
No, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, thank you. I'm getting my big white guys mixed up. Sorry. But I think that's, again, you're using the defense's aggression against them the same way Patrick Mahomes kind of did on the sideline a couple weeks ago.
Did you hear Mahomes yesterday?
No.
You didn't hear that? Somebody has audio of, they recorded on their TV, and Mahomes was running down the sideline, and he was doing his little, will you, won't you hit me thing. And after the play's over, he asked the official, will you let me know when he's close? It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Will you let me know when he's close?
Are you kidding me?
Isn't that a weird thing to say?
It's on the sidelines, too. It's totally got people tinfoil hat of, the refs are helping them win.
Bro.
And obviously, it's Patrick Mahomes' voice because it's Patrick Mahomes.
Will you let me know when he's behind me?
Yeah, it was a weird thing. Will you let me know when he's close?
Hell?
I don't know. Was he was looking at the official, but was he talking to somebody else? He does no look passes. Maybe he does no look talking. I don't know. It was a weird thing.
Weird.
But there was that kind of started the weird rhythm to the game for Oregon and Maryland, though, is that when you have that roughing the punter, it keeps the drive alive. Maryland gets a field goal out of it. And one thing Oregon has been really good at all season long is they have jumped on teams early. And Maryland, coming out of a bye week, their defense was ready. And I will give Maryland deserves a ton of credit. Their secondary, they got dudes in their secondary. They look like Sunday guys in the secondary for Maryland. Up front, they are not nearly as good.
No.
But they got dudes in their secondary. They are long. They are physical. They basically took Idaho's game plan of, we're going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to rally to the ball. We're going to tackle well. And that's how they tried to slow Oregon down. And obviously, when you don't have Tez Johnson on the field, Trayshawn Holden got dinged up early in the game, and he ended up coming back. But he got it looked like he got a knee to either his calf or his thigh or something, and he was fine. But you sit there and you're like, the explosiveness just wasn't there because Maryland used that bye week, and damn, they look good coming out of it.
It's one of those things where you look at Maryland, if this was maybe Maryland's team from last year, where they had Tua's brother.
Yeah.
They had a little bit more.
That quarterback was pretty good, though.
Look. Old Billy Edwards has got a little bit of juice to him.
Oh, Billy does.
But he's more of he's the fun college football player.
Yeah.
Where, I'm sorry, Tua's little brother, I always forget his first name.
Talia.
Thank you. He would sling the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, he would absolutely fire that thing all over the field. And it's one of those things where it's like, if Maryland just had a little bit more juice, you're like, this could have been an interesting game.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I don't think Oregon was in any way complacent. I think Maryland executed a game plan to ugly things up.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon won on, not on the margins, but like they won on being better in the trenches and better on the execution side of things.
Yeah.
Even as clunky as it was still like, all right, let's fire the diesel engine up. Let's go ahead and salt this thing away and take care of it. Because the thing that Maryland could not do was run the ball.
No. People are having a really tough time against Oregon with that. It turns out they're really good up front.
Yeah.
And look, Maryland under Mike Loxley, remember the last 2 years, in 2022 and in 2023, Michigan, they played Michigan to a one-score game, 34-27 in 22, 31-24 in 2023. Last year, their game against Ohio State felt a lot like this Oregon game. They lost 37-17, right? The year before that, 43-30. Like, Loxley gets those guys up for these big games, and that's something that they looked like they were answering the call in this one and played this one pretty tough. But for Oregon, when you look at, I know a lot of people are worried about the injuries. Jordan Birch left the game. It looked like he re-aggravated his ankle. I can tell you that he was up walking around on the sideline. Usually when a guy gets hurt in a game, they will take him to the tent, and then if it's bad, they take him straight up the tunnel. He's gone. They just took the tape off, and it felt like it was more of the, we're not going to push this. You're done for the day, but we'll see where you're at, coming up this week. I don't think that that's a serious one because they didn't put him in a boot. He wasn't on crutches, nothing like that. They just took the tape off and said, you're done for the day. Jordan James was legitimately trying to get back in the game, but at game 10 of the season, limit the contact.
They said not up.
No Whittington and Jade Lamar were fine. They were trying to just salt the game away and get out of there as healthy as they could. It's really weird that a 21-point victory, like the fan base felt completely different. It was the same margin of victory against Michigan. The exact same margin of victory. In fact, Oregon had to go in and punch in a touchdown at the very end of the game to make it a 21-point game, right? But it was just like, man, it felt like they were just going to come out and steamroll them. The third quarter woes, those continue to be an issue. The defense is still really good in the third quarter, though. I mean, they outscored them 8-0 in the third quarter. People want an explosion. I think that going 3 and out to start that third quarter when you get the ball, that was like, oh boy, what is going on with the offense? This is like we don't quite know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were up again, I think it was 21-10? 21-10 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
You're up by
That's at the
2
start.
scores.
Yeah.
The start of the third quarter, you're up 21-10. And then the next drive, they looked like it was going to be another 3 and out. And then you direct snap to Jordan Birch. That fake punt, dude, I thought it was Trayshawn Holden at first. Like when I was watching number 1 run, I thought it was Trayshawn Holden.
Very, very, very large man.
That dude can move.
Boogie.
He can move.
36 yards?
Yeah, he was the second leading rusher for Oregon. 36-yard scamper. Jordan Birch, second leading rusher on the team for the game. But that was kind of that spark, and it reminded me exactly of the Colorado game, right? Last year when they direct snap to Casey Rogers. It was 13-0 at that point. They had defensive lineman in, who was the third guy over as the personal protector. Same look.
By the
Snapped it.
Jordan Birch
boom.
listed at 6'6", 295.
And he was moving.
Did you see related another large former Duck? Did you see Panay?
Yeah, which
Dude, that
one?
was unbelievable.
Which one, though?
Unbelievable how fast he was moving.
He was absolutely.
He was outrunning
mauling.
Montgomery.
He was outrunning Gibbs. And Gibbs is faster. On the one play, he blocked 5 guys.
It was insane.
Yeah. And then
absolutely insane.
I mean, it's like watching a grown man. It's like when you see those mascot games.
Playing
and
with the kids.
The Colts mascot just absolutely dominates the little peewee football players. Penny Sewell's doing that in the National Football League. It's crazy.
For those wondering, I have a stats monitor at Moda Center that I can also change the channel on and watch football.
Yeah.
Which I did for a part of the game last night.
Probably was better viewing.
Oh, boy.
Boy.
I had people around me like, hey, how do I change the channel?
Yeah.
to that?
Am I off base in this at this point? But I feel like that win against Maryland, you're in the playoff if you're the Ducks. Like, I think you can look at it and say, worst case doomsday scenario, you're still going to get in at 10-2. Or am I wrong?
Well, they'll have a conference championship game too. I don't think you're getting in at 10-3.
But if you go 10-2, you're probably not getting in the conference championship game.
Yeah, if they win this week at Wisconsin, I think you're in.
See, I think you're already in.
Yeah.
Because if you go 10-2, you would have 2 Big Ten losses. There would be 3 teams with 1 Big Ten loss, or there'd be 2 teams, 1 with no losses, Indiana, and 1 with 1 loss, Penn State. I think you're in. I think you clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congrats.
Congrats on the playoff berth. No, I still think I believe they got to beat. If they beat Wisconsin this week, then I think that is when you go, boom, 11 wins on the season. That's kind of the marker and the identifier for no doubt nobody can kind of touch it. So I think that would be the one, but you're not wrong in that if they're 11-2, but you don't want to go 2 straight losses, right? Or 2 of your final 3. The playoff committee would eat that alive.
Right. Well, and then that gives you an opportunity to get hosed
No.
coming late because there's going to be a bunch of SEC teams that have the same record.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that happened, though, after the Jordan Birch fake punt, what was the number that Buck came up with? 920. That was the secret score earlier this morning.
Mm-hmm.
920 pounds of action on that drive because Jordan Birch gets the long drive or the long run.
Long run.
You throw the ball to Janoris Wilson on the goal line, which if you were listening to the radio broadcast, you heard the referee come on before the game started. He comes on and he says, number 78 is now 91. That's Janoris Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
They knew they were going to the low red area. They were going to throw to Janoris Wilson. I mean, at the very beginning of the game, the referee announces the number change.
Yeah.
After that touchdown, 91 is now 78. So they were just waiting to get into the low red, and it just so happened it came after Jordan Birch. And then at that point, I think they just went, F it. Connerly, we're running the 2-point play. They didn't need 2 points. Yeah. They didn't need the 2-point conversion, but they just went, we are definitely going to have Josh Connerly score this 2-point conversion. 920 pounds.
The thought of that is that a, hey, we want to try this as opposed to pocket it?
I don't know. I just think it was you got the crowd back into it. We're going to send them over the top.
Let's go full big guy.
That was a spark and a pivot point because like Autzen had like a weird feel around it. Like it wasn't nearly as loud.
Didn't have the
it was
juice.
like Maryland.
Yeah.
It did. It was Maryland.
It's Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, that's Maryland basketball in 2003. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, we're cooking with gas. All right.
That kind of got everybody back into it. There was no Juan Dixon.
No Steve Blake. No Chris Wilcox.
No, but it was. It got everybody kind of back into it, and I think, look, if those games happen for every team across the country, undeniably, you have one of these games for every team across the country. If you have that game and you win by 21, that tells you a lot about the talent of the team, and I think it tells you a lot about kind of where they're at right now. Because one thing that is going to keep them in every game is the way their defense is playing right now. Their defense is playing lights out football. 3 turnovers in the game, you get 2 interceptions, you force a fumble, you get a scoop and score by Brandon Johnson. You created those extra opportunities, and this team is gonna be okay when you're playing defense. I see the text on the Vancouver Ford text line. I'm concerned about the Ducks for when they play better teams because both Idaho and Maryland have shown that the Ducks have trouble putting together long drives without explosive plays. They lack precision in their short passing game. They had a 14-play, 92-yard drive.
Yeah.
I mean, they did have that, but they did have a lot of drops in the game. The precision on short passing, Dylan Gabriel is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
They just had
that's the thing that he probably does the best.
You had some drops though, and that is concerning. I also think that, as you look at it, just watching the offense operate, it was good. Tez Johnson was photographed and videoed on the pregame on the field. No sling for Tez. Walking around the field. I think that is good news, and you should be optimistic moving forward about the timeline of his return being potentially a conference championship game. But the gravity of Tez and what he means when you put him in motion, I think we saw that, right, of how defenses have to account for 15 no matter where he goes on the field. Because if Tez Johnson goes in motion, which he often does, you have the corner over him, a safety, and a linebacker all have to shift their eyes and be aware of where he's going, because he's not just fast, he is a precision route runner and will sit down, find soft spots. And so I think that without him, I think there is a little bit of a learning curve too. But Oregon win by 21. I wasn't overly concerned about anything that we saw. Anytime you play good teams though, you are going, that concern of the texture, yeah, of course it's going to be there. But I think that's for any team in the country. Putting together a long drive is the most difficult thing to do. And you got to figure out a way to create those explosives and take advantage of those opportunities, because I thought the opportunities were there, but Oregon just didn't take advantage of them. And I'm not overly concerned right now because you win by 21, you get out of there relatively healthy, and now you're looking at a trip to Wisconsin. So many teams didn't get that opportunity. And we got to talk about that carnage in the world of college football. That after Will with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Grab your meat for grilling season and save 10% on your Butcher Shop order when you dine in. Menus at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan, good news for Tennessee football fans. Tennessee head football coach Josh Heupel says he feels good about QB Nico Imaliava's status for this week's game against Georgia. Nico underwent an evaluation for concussion-like symptoms in the second half of the Mississippi State game, and he did not play after the first half. Over in the NBA, Thunder big Chet Holmgren left Saturday's game against the Golden State Warriors after he suffered a pelvic fracture during a hard fall. Holmgren's status will be provided in 8 to 10 weeks. The injury is not expected to be season-ending. In Phoenix, the Suns will be without their star Kevin Durant for at least 2 weeks. He suffered a left calf strain over the weekend. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time, Tuesdays at 7.
their second loss of the year, falling to number 16 Ole Miss 28-10. That's a game Ole Miss needed. Lane Kiffin and crew, they find a way, baby. Find a way in Oxford on the Grove, and they beat Georgia 28-10. Number 4 Miami, Mario Cristobal's against Georgia Tech 28-23. Georgia Tech's only way that they were going to win that game was running the football. And
they did.
They did. But was it the 2-minute timeout happens and then Mario Cristobal has to call a timeout out of the 2-minute timeout? That kind of felt like the Auburn game, right? Where Oregon played Auburn, in 2018 to start the season. And the way that Oregon had to burn a timeout, game management, it bit Miami, and Cam Ward ends up with the fumble in that bad boy near the end. We'll dive into the Heisman race too, because that's one thing about Dylan Gabriel in his 183 yards. People were wanting to see him kind of go off against that Maryland team. The Heisman is now wide open.
Yes.
With Cam Ward, that fumble kind of costing your team a game in an undefeated season. What does that look like? Ashton Genty ran wild. He goes for two bills and 3 tutties. Travis Hunter, 9 catches, 99 yards, playing both ways. It's a crazy Heisman race that we have. But then if you look at it, Iowa State lost. They lose to Kansas, and they've dropped 2 in a row. Number 18 Pitt has lost 2 with their loss to Virginia. I mean, this is where I go to, don't apologize for winning by 21 if you're Oregon. How many teams are stepping in it in a big way against teams that punch up and give you a chance? Hell, look at BYU. That BYU-Utah game was bonkers. Rivalry game, holy war, and Utah should have won that game. Do we all agree on that? Do we all agree on the Utah should have won that game?
BYU needs to be better on third down.
Yes.
I think that was divine intervention in the Holy War coming in because
Angels in the outfield.
Yeah, Retzloff, quarterback, he gets hemmed up in the pocket. It looks like that game is over. Boop. Defensive holding, and I thought that was a bit ticky-tack. I think we saw that a lot in the Oregon game. Oregon, by the way, also penalties reared their ugly head after getting 2 penalties for 10 yards against Michigan in the Big House, 12 penalties for 95 yards, 8 of them on the defensive side, 4 of them either defensive holding or pass interference. They're getting the referees. There may have been a memo to referees across college football that, hey, point of emphasis this week, maybe defensive holding. Guys are getting a little aggressive at the top of routes because that was a bit ticky-tack against Utah. And then their AD goes off, but BYU gets a scare against Utah, a team that isn't very good offensively. Indiana improves to 10-0. Kurt Signetti. Pretty cool, isn't it, being 10-0? They get out of there by the skin of their teeth, 20-15 over Michigan.
Which was interesting just because simply they were drastically in control of that game. It's 17-3, and they're going to work. They're marching down the field again, and then, oops, Rourke makes his first real mistake of the season. It was, a second or third interception of the year that he ended up throwing?
Yeah. He didn't Jared Goff it.
No. Oh, God, that was unbelievable. But, they all of a sudden, they get behind everything. They get behind the sticks.
Yeah.
They get behind in momentum. The wheels just started to fall off over and over. Like everything. Michigan just went full-on Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, come on down here, and just pulled them into the mud.
Yeah.
Said, come wrestle with us down here. Because the first half of that game was Indiana going, well, we're going to go ahead and house you now. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. And then Michigan just said, no, hold on.
That right there is where you look at Indiana and you say, all right, they are really good on the perimeter, on the edges. Their offensive line and defensive lines are good, man. You don't have the record that they have. You don't beat teams the way that you have if you're not good. But Michigan is elite in the trenches and on the perimeter right now. It wears you down over the course of a game. And you started to see that at the end of the game, especially where the only touchdown that Michigan scores all day is on a when in the fourth quarter after, they get a short field, 34 yards, they just kind of boom, 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 wear you down running the football. And they bogged Indiana down offensively in the second half too, because they're really good in their front seven on the defensive side of the football. That's the thing I'm interested to see with Indiana as they have coming up next. They get a bye, and then they got Ohio State, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get Ohio State, and are they going to be able to play at the level with a team that is good on the perimeter
and in the trenches?
The
interesting thing about that, did you see what time that kick is?
No. Big nooner?
Big noon again. That is, I think, seven straight games for Ohio State to close out the season at noon.
Really?
Let me pull it up. I saw it through here earlier.
Because the Michigan game's always at noon.
Noon,
too,
yeah.
Right?
Let's see.
Funny how
six consecutive noon starts to close the season for Ohio State, which is kind of weird.
That is very odd. The Big Ten scheduling is
dumb.
Just odd in my
whiteout on Peacock.
Whiteout on Peacock. That was a clunky broadcast too. Like there is a little glitchy.
Like I know they're trying to drive people to Peacock, and look, when Peacock has been good,
yeah,
it's the product has been very good. Like during the Olympics, but it feels like this is so dumb. It feels like it's one of those things where everyone's trying to become Netflix when you can't become Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever looked at the streaming numbers, like as far as like who subscribes to what service, Netflix is so far and above everyone else that no one will ever catch them.
No,
it's just not possible to catch them
because they're global reach too.
They're global reach, and not only that, like they defined what that process is.
Yeah,
everybody else's UI somehow kind of mimics some version of Netflix because they nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like. And everybody's like, well, we're going to try to get that space. And we had everything kind of break apart and go into all of the different streaming wars, right? And now what are we getting? We're getting the consolidation coming back to cable. It's the same thing, I think, with Peacock. As much as everybody's trying to, not everybody, NBC is trying to push you here, it's still not.
It's still not it, Bob.
No, it's not it. Not particularly when, everybody's getting rid of Xfinity Comcast because, problems.
Because they don't care about the TV product anymore. It doesn't feel like it, at least.
Because that's the thing.
They just care about the internet.
Because we got that for free.
Yep.
Like all of us subscribers who had that forever, basically here locally, anybody that ever worked for NBC Sports Northwest / Comcast, we all had it. Part of the deal. But now you look at it and you're just kind of like, well, why would I go to Peacock?
Yeah.
And they just keep trying to force you there on NFL and college football, that appointment viewing stuff. And it feels like Prime is going to be the one that ends up kind of running that.
Well, just because widely accessible, everybody already has Amazon Prime anyways too.
Hey, bundle it with your Amazon membership.
All right, the Big Ten picture. Let's take a quick glance at that, and then we also have our very best player of the game next on the Fan.
What?
very best player of the game. Text 503-864-6326. The Bellagio's very best player of the game, as heard on the Ducks post-game scoreboard show with Ryan Buckley and Will Ortner, who's filling in for Jeff Rust over there, to 503-864-6326, and you will win a Bellagio's Pizza. Bellagio's Pizza, since 1996, dough, fresh made in Wilsonville, daily. Come on down to Bellagio's. Get yourself some pizzas, huh? 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line where you can text in the Bellagio's very best player of the game, as said in the post-game scoreboard show. Oh, we already got a winner. We already got a winner. It was not Jordan Birch, guys. You guys y'all weren't listening. It was BJ, Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson, the Duke transfer. Scoop and score, baby. That looked like it was a pass in real time, but his arm was going back. He was like right at the top of the apex, and since they ruled it a fumble, really hard to overturn that, but we've seen that be an incomplete pass before. Anytime the ball shoots forward like 10 yards, I always think, that's going to be an incomplete pass.
Arm going forward.
Incomplete pass. But they went, nope, fumble, scoop and score for Brandon Johnson. And penalties were a big issue for Oregon in that game. 12 for 95 yards, 8 on the defensive side. Defensive holding, as I said, with the Utah-BYU game, may have been a point of emphasis in officiating, but it also just reeked of Mike Loxley before the game. Officials always go over to the head coaches and they give the talk of, hey, you guys got any trick plays? You got anything going? Any guys with casts that we need to check or anything like that? And then they always go, hey, what did you guys see on film? Is there anything we need to keep an eye out on for the opposition? This reeks of, hey, they're very handsy in the secondary and at the top of routes because Oregon is. They do. They play a very physical brand of football. And that there were a couple that I went, that's a little ticky-tack. But in large part, yeah, Oregon's physical in the secondary. They grab, but they do. And it's kind of like all great defenses give you I dare you to throw that flag every play. I dare you to. And if you don't,
it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
The most successful teams do this.
Yep.
You do it enough, and you just get to the point where, particularly in the end of games, that's what you're setting this up for, is for those end of game opportunities. Yeah. Like, because and I don't mean just like the last play, I mean the last drive or two.
Yep.
If you do it enough all game long, unless they've been throwing flags all game, which occasionally does happen, and you just sit there and look. Jabbar Muhammad might be one of the best in the country at doing that. Yeah. He's very handsy.
Great cover corner.
Great at it. Yep. And I mean that like in the most like praising manner. I'm not saying he's like, oh, he's not a good cover corner. All he does is grab. No, I'm saying he's very good at utilizing his hands in tight and making it so guys can't turn. Yeah. So they can't get free. Like that's what great corners do.
That Ty Felton is really damn good for Maryland.
Yeah.
That receiver is so good.
Yeah. No, like I said, if they had maybe a few more dudes, then maybe that game gets a little spicier.
Yeah. Yep. I was chatting with Kobe Savage after the game, and he even dropped it. He's like, dude, 10 reminded me of a guy who also played at Maryland. He reminds me of Stephon Diggs. And I was like, I'll be damned. He does. Big body, physical, great route runner, creates great separation with his physicality at the top of routes. Maryland had some guys in the skill positions. As it looks at the Big Ten conference standings right now, Oregon and Indiana both 7-0 in conference play. Indiana has got a bye, then they play Ohio State and then wrap up the season with Purdue. Oregon has Wisconsin this week and then a bye week and then Washington. Remember, one weird scheduling quirk for Oregon in this Big Ten schedule. You have Maryland came off of a bye. Wisconsin is coming off of a bye. Washington will be coming off of a bye. Now, Oregon will also be off a bye in that Washington game. But Oregon's last 3 opponents all coming off a bye to end the year. So something to keep an eye on there. Ohio State, Penn State, each one-loss team. So right now, it's a 4-team race still to Indy to see who plays in the Big Ten championship game that first weekend in December. So something to keep an eye on as this season comes to a head, as Ohio State has got Northwestern this week, Indiana and Michigan to round out their schedule. Penn State has got this week the Nittany Lions play Purdue. Then they have Minnesota and Maryland to wrap out the year. I mean, Penn State right now is looking like a one-loss conference team, and everybody else is, with Indiana and Ohio State playing against each other, and then having Ohio State-Michigan rivalry games always are played tight. See the Holy War against BYU and Utah. Those games can play a lot tighter than what the talent discrepancy may be. All right, let's get to hour number 2. We got to start hour number 2 with the Portland Trailblazers and what happened last night. By golly, Chauncey Billups came out swinging after the Blazers lay an egg against the Memphis Grizzlies. Next on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, one game in the NFL tonight, wrapping up the Week 10 action. The Dolphins are traveling to L.A. They're taking on the Rams. Right now, Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill is questionable. He's still dealing with a wrist injury. The Rams are favored by 2.5. Kickoff at 5:15. The Big 12 has fined Utah AD Mark Harlan $40,000 and issued a public reprimand for his disparaging comments about the officiating after Utah lost to BYU Saturday night. This is the biggest fine the Big 12 has levied against an AD in the last decade. Florida State announced this weekend that they will be dismissing their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and wide receiver coach after their 52-3 loss to Notre Dame on Saturday. Florida State is currently on pace for their worst football season since 1974. Then over in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns will be without their star, Kevin Durant, for at least 2 weeks after he suffered a left calf strain over the weekend. They're going to reevaluate Durant at 2 weeks. Doesn't mean that he will be back in 2 weeks. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
What in God's name is going on in here? What was that ruckus?
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
What ruckus? I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app.
Describe the ruckus, sir.
And 1080.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
The Fan.
Hour number 2, Danny and Dusty with you on this Monday afternoon. Happy Veterans Day out there, whether you're listening on 1080 AM, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, twitch.tv/1080am The Fan, or youtube.com/1080am The Fan. Party on, party people. Let's dominate. The Portland Trailblazers lost last night to the Memphis Grizzlies, as expected.
Yeah, they were actually 1.5-point dogs coming into the night.
Yeah,
Which
well, no Ja Morant is probably why.
Well, no, the Grizzlies were favored.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, no Ja, no Desmond Bain, no Marcus Smart, and their Grizzlies are still favored?
Oh, you were surprised by that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, 134-89 told us the story of that game.
Yeah. And it wasn't just that they lost by a lot. They got stunted on. I mean, every single player last night for the Grizzlies had a moment of just dog walking Portland, whether it's Jay Huff blocking 6 shots and knocking down 3s and then gliding to the rim for a finger roll. Yuki, who the entire crowd went nuts for, coming in throwing bounce passes through entire groups of defenders. Scottie Pippen Jr. going between the legs on a fast break off the ground for a lob.
Getting nutmegged is not great.
I mean, just they just got stunted on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was...
Well, and they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn shooting.
No.
34 for 100.
Yeah.
From the field.
Really bad. Really bad.
Whoa. And then we know they're not a good three-point shooting team. 4 of 42 is gross because all that tells you is that they were just hucking and chucking at some point. And it looked lethargic. It looked like they didn't want to be there. You've said this several times. They play hard for Chauncey Billups. They did not play hard for Chauncey Billups last night, though. And when you asked Chauncey about that, he had probably the most blunt answers, which I actually appreciate Chauncey saying, and being so blunt, the most blunt that he has been as a head coach.
I told him that anybody that sleeps well tonight, you're a loser. It's just that simple. You're a loser. You sleep well after this one, you're a loser.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, and it was, look, so peel back the curtain here a little bit. Here's what normal night looks like. Horn goes off, media descends from section 113 down to the floor, across the court, go into the tunnel, go into the media room, wait there probably about 5-6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 at the absolute most for Chauncey to come in and do the press conference. Maybe 20 minutes. And we're looking around like, okay, like we knew what was going on in there.
You think?
He came in and PR probably tried to calm him down before he came in, but you could tell he had been yelling. And when he walked in and sat down, you pretty much knew it was coming, but here you go.
I mean, it was just embarrassing, to be honest with you.
That was the F word.
We was soft as hell the whole game. Nobody really fought. It was just embarrassing for everybody, That's just not who we are, It really isn't. There's no excuse for that. And you have a lot of rough nights in this league, obviously. But I don't even care. It just wasn't even that. It was like our guys just showed up because they had to be here but didn't want to play.
Yikes.
He's not wrong. And really, outside of the deep bench, it was true. Ant was awful last night. Jeremy was going through the motions. I thought DA at least competed a little bit for portions of the game. Shaden was listless.
I didn't. Full disclosure, I watched football probably a quarter and a half. No, and I just said you saw them come out of the gate, and you were like, "What are they doing?" Like at the very end of the first quarter, Shaden Sharp it hits at the end of the quarter there to be down 31-17.
Yeah. No, I used the Chris Paul meme, the YouTube header of like Chris Paul hits 3 to cut deficit to 42, like because that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
it was like, hey, Shaden got a putback. Yeah.
And at that point, they were what were they like? They 3 of 17 or something from the field in the first quarter. What was that first quarter? Because
they were 6 of 21, 1 of 10 from 3. But they started out, I think, like 3 of 7, 3 of 16. It was really bad.
It was really ugly, and you just went. It's one of those nights, and then I was like, well, there's football.
Oh yeah, no, and the funny thing is this is why I laugh at fans in a little bit. Like they're running Chauncey's basic offense. It's like. Okay, first of all, they've installed a new offense from Nate Bjorkgren. They're not running last year's scheme. They're still installing a new offense. So for all of they need to change it, they did. Remember, they brought in a new coaching staff.
Well, we've talked about that. The movement, the
They're actually doing stuff off ball. And
we talked about this after the very first game of the season where it said this finally looks like a team that is not playing with C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard on the floor.
Like there's more movement side to side. It's like
emphasis on mid-range and the strengths of what some of your shooters have.
Yeah, and it's more like, could they do more? Yes, but also just talking to guys, there's not enough talent on the team. There's not enough shot-creating talent on the team. And for everyone's like, Scoot Henderson needs to play more. He's better than Ant. No, he's not. He's not. Full stop. And Shaedon Sharpe better get his S together because he played with no force. Ant was awful last night, and he knows it. Look, you guys didn't hear it because the video camera had already been taken down. Look, again, I'll give you a little more peek behind the curtain. Normally when Chauncey finishes up, we go to the locker room, and we go do stuff from there. We get to the locker room, we have to wait outside security and PR until things are ready to go, which means, guys are mostly either, not all naked or the room's not a complete mess or whatever. Mm-hmm. We go down there, we're waiting outside, and they go, hey, you know what? We're going to send somebody to the podium. Why? Because they probably tore the place to hell.
Perhaps to replace a whiteboard.
Yeah, look, look, and again, good.
Yeah.
Good. But Ant came out and spoke, and there's no, I don't think anybody recorded it. Ant was pretty damn emotional. You could hear it in his voice. Like, look, I would imagine he got a pretty severe part of the tongue lashing. That was Ant's worst game I've ever seen him play as a pro. Mm-hmm. I love the guy. There's no mistake about that. As a human being, I have a very, very, very good relationship with him.
He had as many turnovers as points. And that is not a good sign for a guy who is one of the few creators on a team.
And he was listless last night. And I think the big thing is that no matter what they do right now, stuff is just not clicking offensively. And I think the butt kicking from Minnesota bled into this one. And I think the tanking of the last year is bleeding into this.
That is the dangerous part about tanking. That's where comments like what Chauncey Billups made last night can go one of two ways.
Yes.
He will either get this team to play for him again, or they are going to fold, and this is going to get real ugly real quick.
And look, and everybody says, oh, you just love Chauncey, you're going to bat for him, you just only say nice things. No, I have maintained, I have said this on air and off air. The one thing that matters during this tanking stuff is that everybody's pulling in the same direction. It's hard to do that over 82 games when you're getting your teeth kicked in.
Especially over multiple seasons.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Like, these are humans, and the whole, binary of play the kids, that's all I care about. These are human beings.
You know who plays the kids and went down that route? Detroit.
Yes, and they got destroyed, and their culture got shredded. And now they look better because guess what they did? They got some institutional knowledge around some guys. They got some floor space. Like, they've got, it's not perfect, but it's better. And they're going to find nights where they get absolutely curb stomped. And look, if they go the other way, they need to fire Chauncey.
Yeah.
Like full stop.
If they go down the road where this team just says, we're pros, we're not going to take this, we're out, then because right now you lost 127-102, 134-89.
And look, the Minnesota loss, I didn't think they played terribly. I thought Ant Edwards was just God tier.
Well, you get him 2 games
twice in a row.
row.
Look, and a back-to-back.
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
And here's the thing. That could be a make or not even could. It will very likely be a make or break period. If they don't come out there and look, I think that there will be a response from guys. There will be, if nothing else, some internal pride. And if it does go sideways and they do end up moving on from Chauncey and very likely Nate Bjorkgren would become the interim head coach, they'll get a coach bump a couple games.
Yeah.
But it'll revert back to what this is. And that's been always my point about this season of you want to bring in a new coach so you can hand them the reins to be bad for a year. It's never made any sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever a good option to go down that path. But you don't even have to talk about last night individually. Again, the only guys last night who were remotely competitive, Klingen to an extent, because I think he wanted to fight Zach Edey. They went at it more than a couple times.
I'm here for it.
Time Lord, because he doesn't have another switch. Denny couldn't hit a shot, but I think he played hard.
And that was a question that I have with Shaedon moving into that starting lineup. Denny now moves to the bench,
And
it looked like it affected him rhythmically.
Yes.
Because when did he have his best season? Last year in Washington, what did they do? Moved him into the starting lineup.
And then only that, they gave him the ball.
Yeah.
And I think, look, part of this that will, I think, solve itself is when they do make some moves, it will open some things up. But I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But organizationally, they want guys pissed off. They want guys Denny getting bumped to the bench. Look, he walked by me going out for warm-ups last night. Normally, I get a little fist bump. Hey, what's up, Denny? My man was focused.
Yeah.
And pretty clearly not happy. Which, good, he shouldn't be.
But, I mean, that also, think of what that does. You give up 134 points, what that does to you defensively with Denny Advia. Like, even if he's not hitting his shots, which he hasn't all season long, defensively, he gives you more matchups than when you have Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons in the backcourt, which defensively limited on both.
Sure. But, I mean, you've got, and I've seen a lot of people say, well, Scoot's been better than Ant. He hasn't. Even as bad as Ant has been, he hasn't.
We were talking last week about how Scoot had been looking listless, as you put it.
Like I said, it's not a thing. And
that comes to me is like we're talking about multiple guys over multiple stretches. We have a whole game where it's the entire roster.
Yeah.
Then you start going, now the coach isn't getting through anymore.
Yeah, and that's what you wonder if that's the case. And because this thing can spiral like that.
Yes, it can.
And look, I'm not advocating for them to make a move just because, but if it's
firing Chauncey Billups right now is not going to make this thing better.
No. And that's what I keep trying to tell everybody. It'll make them feel better about thumping their chests again, the same way we did with Terry Stotts.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
Not good.
It does. Like, there's no amount of coaching change that changes stuff when you're tanking. I've seen
they've
people,
won 27, 33, 21 games since Terry.
And it's like the whole thing is, and I will beat this drum forever. None of this stuff matters holistically until they have that centerpiece. Like, that's the thing that matters, because the thing that you need, the thing that everything revolves around. And I've seen people say, well, Oklahoma City and Orlando, they hired their coaches. Then they went through it. They had Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and they had Franz Wagner, and they had Jalen Suggs. Like, they had cornerstones that they said, yes, these are guys that we feel like are going to be dudes, and we're going to commit a very large amount of money to them. And guess what they ended up being? Guys ended up being cornerstones that they committed a tremendous amount of money to. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is right now, you're trying to figure out if Shaden Sharp can be one of those guys. And look, I don't think it's any secret when Chauncey Billups said last year that we've got some guys that are a little too cool for school, who he was talking about. Because Shaden can be nonchalant. And one of the things that I heard about him coming out of the summer was he found that bleepity-bleep switch. Like, he was going at people's necks. Because there's no question about the talent. But is he going to be a guy who's a killer?
And that's the hard part when you're on a team that is not trying to win and your roster isn't capable of stepping up and being that, having that instinct alongside you too.
And I think one of the big things is they're missing a vocal leader in that locker room. They're missing a guy who's been in the league for 10 years who's going to bark. And I've heard...
It's not JG. It's not DeAndre Ayton.
No, I've heard DA's tried to.
Yeah.
Like, he's tried to mix it up, go after guys. Like, he's trying to take that mantle on, but I don't think it's necessarily...
It's not who he's been through the first phase of his career.
No, and that's
actually what he was knocked for not being when he was in Phoenix.
And I've heard behind the scenes, he's tried to kind of be the rabble-rouser.
Yeah.
But
it is cool to see he and Donovan Clingan, like the mentor leader type.
Yes, like he's trying.
Role that
look,
he is
DA's got his own stuff that he's had to deal with in the past, but he's actually tried to change. Like, you can actively see it. He's stepping out, trying to take threes. He's not taking as many mid-rangers. He's diving to the rim harder. Even though he's still not great at screening, he's still, like, he's trying to be better at screening. And you're seeing, like, him he could have lost his S when they drafted Donovan Clingan. Instead, what does he do? The first thing he does is go on IG and be like, let's get to work, big fella. And it wasn't fake. Donovan has said numerous times already how much DA has mattered to him.
But he's still not a guy that will step in and when you're in the fire, things are going wrong, he's going to pull you out of it.
Yep. And as much as Time Lord, as Robert Williams is like an unadulterated dude on the floor, don't get me wrong, he'll talk, but he's, again, a lot like Jeremy in the quiet leader.
Yeah.
They'll talk on the floor, but he's not a rah-rah guy.
Yeah. It reminds me of when Dane was a rookie, and it was, hey, this is LaMarcus's team now. And you had LaMarcus, who was not that guy.
He's not a rah-rah guy.
He's not a rah-rah leader guy. And everybody just looked at the rookie and said, no, that guy is the guy that natural leadership that we are going to follow you blindly. Now, they also, though, had guys that could be that with like Wesley Matthews.
And Robin.
Yeah.
Both those guys. Robin would, he would knock off the BS very quickly. And Wes would bark on and off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick was the kind of guy who just kind of papered over everything, just chill vibes all the time. But they all knew the pecking order.
And they don't have one on this team.
And
there's a lot of new pieces, no alpha that's going to step in and take that.
And that's the thing is, like, that's where, like, you look at Detroit. They've got Cade Cunningham. Like, you look at every one of these teams that has been young, and even though they're bad, they've got something that they know who is going to be there kind of thing. And I keep hearing we need to prioritize Scoot, Shaden, and Donovan. No, you don't. You need to prioritize whoever rises to the top. And right now, that's none of them.
Yeah. All right. Dang. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Forward text. Get to some of your feedback before we go back to football, where we got to get a lot. There's so much in the NFL that we're going to have to hit over the last half of this show. But your feedback on the Portland Trailblazers, Chauncey Billups, pretty stern comments out of Chauncey last night. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Oregon.
Our text line's 503-864-6326. We're talking Portland Trailblazers, huh? Not a great night last night, but this question asks, okay, Danny, I hear what you're saying, but my question today is, are the laid-back, quiet-type vets that are comfortable being in Portland, even though we are tanking, are they the right kind of vets to be around the Sharps and the Scoots? That's a legit question.
I don't think there's a right type to have around guys, and also, there's this whole holistic thing of, because I know, and I'm friends, to be frank with Anthony, that I have this blind spot for him, this, that, or the other. It's like, that's not the case, in the sense of Scoot has been unabashedly very bad. And this whole idea that Anthony is the thing and Chauncey is the thing keeping from Scoot getting better is based in fairy tale land. And right now, Scoot isn't doing enough to really even be considered a solid backup point guard. Like, that's a real thing. And so this whole idea that they need to pack up Anthony and just get him out here to make way for a guy that right now is profiling terribly doesn't make any sense at all. Mm-hmm. And the idea, look, I hope he figures it out. I genuinely do. But in just talking to people around the league, like, there are a lot of folks who are sitting there right now and going, look, man, I don't know if Scoot's a starting caliber point guard in the NBA.
Yep.
And if you just say, get rid of Anthony Simons just to make room for Scoot Henderson, that's mismanaging assets. And that takes away the human element side of all of this. Like, the likelihood is that Scoot will never be as good as him right now. Like, that's a general belief held around the league. And whether or not you think that Anthony Simons is the right player type to be in that spot, we can agree and disagree on that. That's fine. But the whole idea of, like, they need to get rid of DeAndre Ayton and Donovan Clingan needs to play 30 minutes a night. He's physically incapable of playing 20 minutes of consistent, productive basketball. And you want to play him 34 minutes? It's like, no, you have to have these guys to make it make sense. And look, I'm not saying it's been good. It's been, like, last night was egregious. And Ant has stunk through the first 11 games.
Too.
Yeah, look, last night was the first effort game. They've just not performed in the other games. Like, that's more of what I expected. I think that's what everybody kind of expected.
We knew they didn't have shooters.
Yes.
And they haven't been shooting well. But last night was a collective effort on both fronts. So we shall see.
Look, I had somebody on Twitter ask me about, what about the Wizards and the Pistons? And they're doing this, and they're doing just fine. And look, despite losing by 46 last night, the Wizards still have a worse point differential in the season than the Trailblazers. Because they've been getting smacked in the teeth, too.
Yeah.
They've got a negative 13.5 point differential. Like, all the Jazz are doing it. The Jazz have a negative 13.9 point differential. Like, this whole idea, like, if you take that game out last night, the Blazers' point differential is, like, right there, right alongside the Raptors, the Bulls, the 76ers, hilariously. But, like, that's where they are.
Yeah, but where are they going to be after the next two where you have a back-to-back against Minnesota?
And that's the thing is, you look at where this is going to – what's funny is this Wizards team just played this Grizzlies team, all shorthanded, and they got absolutely smashed. They got absolutely – So – I think there's a little bit of the insular, like, no, we're actually getting it worse than everyone else. And when in reality, no.
Samesies.
Samesies. Like, the bad teams are getting smacked. Like, that's bad teams get smacked.
Who'd have thunk it?
It's just.
I never would have thought that.
Well, and the funny thing is, I keep hearing, the Blazers aren't playing their young guys. And I go through here and I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean they're not playing their young guys? Let me take a look at this here real quick. Let's just sort by minutes. Tamani Kamara's in his second year playing 30 minutes a night. Scoot Henderson in his second year is playing 26 minutes a night. Denny Avdia is playing 26 minutes a night. Shaedon Sharpe came back off of injury and is playing short, but has still played 20 minutes a night. Like, who's not playing? Ryan Rupert?
Chris Murray.
Donovan Clingan is currently playing 14 minutes a night. And for everybody clamoring for more, if you can't see him huffing and puffing up the court, I don't tell you. Like, this year, and I said this from the second they drafted him, this year is about him getting comfortable to the NBA game, playing outside the paint, and getting in shape. Like, NBA shape. That's a real thing. Like Zach Edey, who you saw last night, who runs like the Terminator, can play 40 minutes a night in the NBA because he's an absolute freak who went to the NBA draft combine, not this past draft, but the combine before, and got told, you're too fat, you're out of shape, you can't play in the NBA because it's just not going to be a thing. I don't know what he did or who he worked with or what animal he sacrificed, but it's between him and Nikola Jokic as far as big guys who can play 40 minutes and just keep going. They are Michael Myers in the NBA. I've never seen anything like those guys do that. But expecting Donovan Clingan to be that after 2 years in college, playing 22 minutes a night, is just not something that makes any sense.
The upside is higher with Clingan because he'll get to a point where he can play. You may see the ceiling be reached with Edey a little bit far sooner.
Although you did see him hit the three last night and then go full Jalen Brunson.
Well, yeah, he almost hit as many threes as the Blazers did last night.
God.
And he was 1 for 1.
But look, I get Blazers fans being frustrated, and you want the
Blazers were minus 36 on 3-pointers.
Oh God, I mean, ugh. The desire to assign blame to one person, it's always been like, what the hell are we doing?
I guess I will just use this as the reminder. This is what tanking feels like.
Yes, and this is why. Look, I hate to sound like a jerk, but this is what we were talking about last year. You're not ready for this.
Yeah, you're not about that life.
You're not built for this because you've been spoiled. And look, I've been spoiled because we saw great basketball for a very long period of time.
Yeah, we did.
It's not fun, man. But this is I used the Shawshank metaphor last night on the show. You got to crawl through the 500 yards of crap to get to the other side. And you can't just be like, oh, screw it and turn back around now. You're in the pipe, baby.
Well, where are we at in the pipe, though? If we're using the poop pipe analogy, where are we at in the poop pipe? Because 27 wins, 33 wins, 21 wins. I mean, it should feel a lot closer than it is right now.
I think the big thing right now is it's 2 years of the actual tank. Like, this is the actual no BS. Buckle up, baby. And you're not halfway down because you can't see the light yet. Because the light is, hopefully, this upcoming draft. The problem becomes is if something goes wrong and they get bumped back and they don't get the guy.
Or guys,
whatever it is, you get stuck in that pipe. And that is the risk, is that you can get lost in this desert real easy. And the problem is sometimes you find the oasis and you go Phoenix. Remember Phoenix in 2014?
Yeah.
And they thought, oh, this is it. And they committed. And then all of a sudden, oh, this ain't it. This ain't it, Bob. Yikes. And then they were a disaster piece. And they had to kind of retool again. You've got to be careful when you push in. And the flip side of that is you could be Oklahoma City right now who didn't want to push all your chips in last year and maybe a potential title window. And Chet Holmgren's probably out until the All-Star break now.
Yep. All right.
So,
2 months. 2 months. Chet fractured pelvic
minimum.
Yeah.
Before
8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, before a return to play is established.
Yikes.
Yeah, look, man, 7'1" dude on crutches for 2 months. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, he ain't gonna be back until after the All-Star break. It's tough.
This is no good.
All right, coming up next, it's the worst day on the web. If Georgia's gonna get irritated about their players celebrating with players on the other team, maybe they should probably get irritated at their own players for, I don't know, refusing to learn how to drive a vehicle necessarily and properly. But first, here's Big Will Betts of the Sports Center Update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Good or bad weather, the golf course is always the driest around. Download the Langdon Farm app today to get all the latest news and specials. First on the Fan, we've got one game in the NFL tonight, wrapping up Week 10 action. Dolphins traveling to L.A. They're taking on the Rams. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, he's questionable, still dealing with a wrist injury. The Rams are favored by 2.5. Kickoff for that one at 5:15. Good news for an already injury-riddled Buccaneers team. All-pro left tackle Tristan Wirfs only suffered a sprained MCL in their game against the 49ers on Sunday. He is expected to miss multiple weeks, but it is not season-ending as originally feared. Over in the Big 12, the Big 12 has fined Utah AD Mark Harlan $40,000 and issued a public reprimand for his disparaging comments about the officiating after Utah lost to BYU on Saturday night. This is the biggest fine the Big 12 has levied against an AD in the past decade. Over in the NBA, Thunder big Chet Holmgren left Sunday's game against the Golden State Warriors after he suffered a pelvic fracture during a hard fall. Holmgren's status will be provided in 8 to 10 weeks. The injury is not expected to be season-ending. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080. The Fan.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekday. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Man, they're
Look, Kirby Smart's a hell of a coach. Georgia's a hell of a program. But he's kind of a D-hole for this.
You think?
Yeah. Throwing your kid throwing one of your players under a bus. For those that aren't aware, Jake Pope, DB for Georgia, after Georgia lost to Ole Miss, was his high school teammate that he went and celebrated with?
It's actually kind of convoluted. There's
friends. He's got friends, very good friends on Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And in the stands.
In the stands.
And he went and quote unquote celebrated with them.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. And then Kirby Smart in the post game, or was it post game or was that this morning?
No, this was today.
Okay, today at the press conference. I'll just let you guys hear it.
Yeah, what an idiot. Just stupid. I didn't see it till today, but he's embarrassed about it. He's upset about it. That's obviously a childhood friend of his. He grew up and played with there at Buford and knows him, hadn't seen him in forever, but just not real smart. But to be honest with you, I don't have time to waste energy on that. You know what I'm saying? Like my focus is on Tennessee. I'm not worried about that.
I'm so not worried about it that I'm going to call it stupid.
Yeah, he was asked about it because obviously Georgia fans really upset because the video is kind of an elevated shot of all the Ole Miss fans storming the field. And then you see one guy in a Georgia uniform and he's like jumping and like yelling with some guys that two of them wearing Ole Miss jerseys. Mm-hmm. And the kid, everybody's just like, how in the world do you do that? That game meant a whole hell of a lot. Number 3 team in the country loses to Ole Miss in a game that would have eliminated Ole Miss from SEC title contention, college football playoff, and now Georgia's in the thick of it going, we don't know if we're going to make it to the playoff or the SEC title because we've got 2 losses, and it gets a hell of a lot harder with a meeting with Tennessee this week, a rivalry game against the top 10 team in the country. That is not sitting well with the folks in Athens, Georgia. And I understand his frustrations. I'd be pissed too if I was a coach and just be like, dude, you just lost a game. Like, you are supposed to be taking this hard. But we haven't heard Kirby Smart call other players idiots for doing far more egregious things.
And that's the thing. Did somebody get killed street racing?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many different vehicular-related charges have been filed?
I think citations and arrests, I think we're in the upwards of like 20 for like speed racing, stuff like that.
I haven't heard him call anybody stupid or egregious.
There's abuse in there too. Don't forget
abuse.
Oh,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the receivers kicked off.
Is that stupid?
That is idiotic behavior.
Or is that just no comment?
Yeah.
We'll let the legal system play that out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like, Kirby, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up. Hey, you know what you say there is? Instead of placating to your stupid donors and your ignorant fans, guys, he's a kid.
Yeah. Yep.
He was celebrating with a longtime friend he hadn't seen in a long time. He wishes he would have done it underneath in the tunnel.
Yep.
There's a very, very, very simple way to handle that where you don't throw your kid to the wolves.
Here is Jake Pope on the interaction because he notes app this thing. I wanted to address the videos that have been put out after the Ole Miss game. First and foremost, I want to say sorry for the way it was taken out of perspective and has caused distractions and commotion for my teammates and coaches. This is not a representative of who I am in any way. In no way, shape, or form would I ever celebrate a loss in this program, and anyone who knows me well knows that. My longtime family friends had come up to me unexpectedly after the game as I was trying to get off the field to safety and were extremely excited to see me after the game. And I was also surprised to see them as well. And that's why you saw the reaction that I gave via the video. They are also very close with a former teammate and longtime friend on the Ole Miss team, which is why they have those jerseys on. They've come to my games as well. I'm Georgia through thick and thin and have never loved a group of guys more than I love the guys I go to battle with day in and day out. Lastly, and once again, I'm sorry to my teammates, coaches, and fans all around about the way that the video looked. And I chose to move forward. I think he says choose to move forward and get ready for the great rest of the season with my brothers. Go Dogs. He's Georgia thick and thin. He's transferred from Alabama. But I digress. I understand that explanation from Pope.
Mhm.
And I think that people would be surprised that oftentimes the players don't take losses the same way fans do.
No.
But that's what he's saying is that I wasn't expecting to see them. I got excited because they're my friends.
Yeah.
And
it's a
that sucks.
19, 20-year-old kid seeing a longtime friend that he hadn't seen in a long time. And look, man, I've had some, I'm sure you can say the same thing. I've had some really crappy days in my life. And when all of a sudden I see somebody who I love that I haven't seen in a while. And guess what? I'm pretty damn happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the optics of it are really bad.
And again, think about this. What kid is considering optics?
Yeah.
I was going to say, isn't this the classic, like, perception becomes reality, whether it's right or wrong? It's like when you call out sick because you actually like have to go to the doctors or something, yet you post on your story on Instagram or Snapchat, like, oh, here's me in this 30 rack. People are instantly going to think that you called out work and you weren't actually sick. You were just going and partying. Like, everyone has to learn that lesson one way or another. This is just how he learns it.
Yeah, and look, the to me the simple way is here is Kirby is the adult in the room, and instead of calling the kid stupid, maybe go, hey, look, he made a little bit of a mistake. The optics weren't great, but he wasn't undermining the program.
No, and it's not like he was a starter. I'm looking at the stats from that game, and I do not see Jake Pope getting on the field. The white defensive back was not part of the game.
So, and again, why are you throwing him under the bus, Kirby?
Well, because you can, because also he's
not playing.
Play.
And maybe that gives you some sort of deflection from the fact that you just lost to Ole Miss.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's not it.
Huh.
He's focused.
Like I said,
he's focused on Tennessee.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's
not great. There's obviously other avenues that you can look at, and you could say, oh, wait, maybe I could be calling other guys idiots for their actions during a game.
And look, and that's just during the game, let alone off the field. Is Carson Beck catching any hell right now?
I'm assuming so.
He has a lot on social
media. He's going.
Well, no. I'm talking about from Kirby Smart.
He should be.
Is he calling him stupid?
He's
probably
the other team a lot.
Not publicly, but privately. I can guarantee you he's getting called an idiot quite often in those meetings. I'm looking at the participation report. He did not play.
Jake Pope?
Jake Pope.
Okay.
Yep. Did not play. DNP.
Did he tweet about the Saints, though? Because the other Pope is firing off tweets, man.
Hashtag Saints. Hashtag Saints.
Let me check here.
Really growing that algorithm.
No, he has not tweeted about the Saints.
Really appealing to the South and particularly Louisiana.
Damn. His Notes app was the first tweet since September 22nd. He's been locked in. Locked in.
I have a reeling suspicion that the
Zero Dark 30.
Zero Dark 30, yeah. I have a reeling suspicion that Jake Pope was not going to write that.
No.
And was instead given some notes to put on his Notes app.
You will be tweeting the Notes app.
You've tweeted in 3 months.
Yeah.
But you're going to do it now.
Oh, boy.
So,
and I can say it was from him because there were several misspellings in there. So that was not PR.
That's how they trick you.
That was a personal. That was personally written.
That's how they get you away from the Chat GPT. It's like, can you give me an apology, but make it like it was written by a 10th grader?
Boy, that commercial that they're rolling out right now with the guy who's total bro in the office, and he writes the email, and then he goes, make it sound professional, and then it gets sent, and the boss looks at him. It's like, I don't know if that's a message we want to be sending, that, hey, any idiot can work for you now.
I've looked into that AI.
No,
no way.
way.
I'd be lying if I said I haven't.
Is that how you're writing
one.
your updates these days?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I came up with disparaging all by myself.
I mean,
public reprimand.
These are all in my
vocabulary. I know words. I'm a comm major.
Word stuff.
Vocabularize.
I like the words. I have a thesaurus.
Yeah, it's interesting. You want to talk a little NFL? Because we haven't done any of that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much we need to talk about.
Well, we'll have a little hors d'oeuvre here. And maybe what the hell is going on with some quarterback choices around the NFL, particularly Indianapolis? That more on Danny Dusty, 10 the Fan. he alluded to open the show, there's a lot of what the hell is going on out there?
Oh, boy.
And in the NFL, what the hell is going on in Indianapolis? Joe Flacco opened up the game with a tremendous scoring opportunity. Just not for his own team.
No, Bob. Not at all.
Pick 6 out of the gate.
That's a tough way to start.
Made things spicy, right?
I guess spotting Josh Allen in the Buffalo Bills 7 is not the best thing in the world to do.
No, and Joe Flacco would go on to add 2 more, 3 interceptions, and the idea of what this Colts season is, and the only thing I can think of here is that in the NFL, there's this belief of every year is different, every year is separate, and you just kind of chase whatever it is in any given year because of injuries or what your division is. And what I look, how you plan out in Major League Baseball versus NBA versus NFL, they're all very different.
Mm-hmm.
I am of the mindset that I think more longer focus needs to be adopted in the NFL, despite how short careers are and how short peaks are, because as much as we would love to have the Patrick Mahomeses of the world that stay great apparently forever and somehow have this magic fairy dust of winning games, that's not the case. And so from a ownership management perspective, I get the idea of the year-to-year chase. Like maybe this is our year. Even if it's not your year to win, you talk yourself into going to the playoffs because it's a crap ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can't divorce those two things.
And it's a crap ton of money towards the players. And so the players don't want to be put in a position where you have one guy of the most importance of any position in any sport who holds you back on a roster that is playoff ready to take money out of your pocket for those playoff game checks. Those are very big.
Because you've got DeForest Buckner. You've got Michael Pittman Sr. or Jr. You've got A.D.
Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor.
You've got dudes.
You have more than enough talent to be competent and productive. But you also have a very young quarterback that you knew was going to be a developmental project, and you have pulled the parachute on him way too early. And now you're in a position where Shane Steichen is saying, no, we're going to stick with Joe Flacco.
That was as of today.
You have, and the same thing is going on like in New York with Daniel Jones. Like, why are they still playing? Daniel Jones looked god-awful yesterday in Germany.
And it sounds like they might be making a move away as they did not commit to Daniel Jones in their press conference today.
They did not, and they shouldn't because of the fact that...
Is it $40 million guarantee?
He has an injury guarantee. So if he gets hurt, his entire contract is fully guaranteed from here on out, and they have a chance to cut him at the in the offseason.
And not take the salary cap hit. Like, it's a full-on out.
They can get out, but
just
now is the time to put Drew Lock in there. But for Anthony Richardson, I think what Indy's looking at is, especially with the loss in Sunday Night Football to the Houston Texans, they are convincing themselves, hey, we still got an opportunity to backdoor our
still
way
right there.
this
We
thing.
can wild card this thing.
Despite the fact they are 0-2 against the Texans, but they don't have to play the Texans anymore. They could still win the division, for God's sakes. They could still win the division.
As insane as that is.
They're 4-6.
They're 8th in the conference right now.
And the Texans are 6-4. Okay? But there's going to be other teams that are going to be sitting there vying for that playoff spot that are also 4-6. Can the Cincinnati Bengals figure it out and not have to play a game where Joe Burrow has to be perfect all the way through? But if you are Indy, you've got to be looking at this going, all right, Houston has got their next 3 games. Cowboys, Titans, Jags. Those are all very winnable games.
They're worse. They're worse than them.
And the Colts have got the Jets, Lions, Patriots. They're looking at it saying, if we can peel off one against the Lions, which they should not
be
win,
able to do,
and they will not probably win that game. See what Houston had happen to them. I can't wait to talk about that game. That game was awesome. Yeah. I was so happy. I turned
3 minutes.
I turned the Blazers off, and I put the Texans and the Lions back on the big screen because that was incredible, and I may have killed Jared Goff. But Indy, at this point, you're playing the Jets next week. put Anthony Richardson in because you need to see what the guy has, right? And you've got to continue to play because Joe Flacco's not going to be the guy that will win you a playoff game.
He's not good enough. Like I could, if Joe Flacco was, let's go late career Kurt Warner. Like you still got the goods.
Yep.
Like maybe you're not. We're going Cardinals Kurt Warner, and you're looking around your team and you've got dudes. Then I get it. Like you can sell me on that. You can't sell me on Joe Flacco right now.
They're gonna go, but they will convince themselves that they can go 6-1 to end the year.
Here's
because they got the Jets, Lions, Patriots.
And here's why though.
Broncos is a toss-up game. Then you have Titans, Giants, Jags. All but that Lions game, they are winnable. Denver's playing far better, and that one could be a toss-up, but they got their glaring holes and weaknesses as well.
Dusty, they have not lost a game other than the Bills game by more than a score.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what the games they lost.
Anthony Richardson included in
this.
Yes,
and then this thing. Here's what the games that they have lost. 29-27 to open the season against the Texans. 16-10 at the Packers. 37-34 at the Jaguars. 23-20 at the Texans. 21-13 at the Vikings. This is the same thing as the Bengals. Just with a significantly worse quarterback.
Yeah, who went pick 6 and then a pick to start the game. Comeback player of the year, my ass.
And here's the thing: if you're if you're looking at like
Damar Hamlin died.
If you're
looking at the thing,
came back
that if you're in that Colts
his
front
heart
office,
literally stopped,
or if you're Colts ownership,
they revived him. Yeah,
their point differential, they're -15 on the season.
Yeah, and they have a losing record. Yeah,
they're -15 on the season. Like
that's what they are convincing themselves of.
It's
a
coin toss. It's like the number of games that have gone coin toss against them. You're like, the math has to start mathing at some point in time. That's again, I don't think it's the right way to go. Like again, if Joe Flacco, who's another like late career quarterback? Hell, Ryan Fitzpatrick in the Fitzmagic year.
Here is the thing though that. Where we don't see it, we're watching Joe Flacco throw the football.
What's the locker room?
I bet the one thing that Joe Flacco has over Anthony Richardson in spades right now is we have seen Jonathan Taylor's production go up. The running game has gotten better. That is so much on your quarterback getting you to the right play at the line of scrimmage. And I bet you Shane Steichen is just beating his head against the wall being like, you guys don't know what I'm going through here.
Yeah. He just doesn't have the capacity to get us in.
Joe Flacco physically doesn't have it anymore, but mentally that's not going away with Joe Flacco.
Look, you put
gets
Joe's
us to
brain
the right place.
In Anthony Richardson, then maybe you've got something going. But
how far are we on that technology?
Well, Elon would say he's got it right now.
But Neuralink.
We've said this with Anthony Richardson when he was playing. When were they at their best with him on the field? When they were running the hurry up. Like they are really good.
Simplify.
Maybe you go 2 minute. Well, it's also the play clock. You get up to the line of scrimmage. The in-helmet communication stops at 15 seconds. So you got from 40 to 15 to talk to him. Most of the time when you're in a traditional huddle, you are breaking the huddle at 18. You only got like 3 seconds to talk to your quarterback. If you run the hurry up, you're in his ear until you're ready to snap that ball and go. Maybe you just put Anthony Richardson in and just run hurry up. So Shane Steichen can just be like, no. Check. We're going to check to inside zone. We're going to check to you're going to go over the top, and then boom, he can play. He can operate.
Go get Chip Kelly.
You go full on blur offense, and your offensive line will hate you. They will, and you'll probably lose guys left and right.
Yeah,
but Anthony Richardson may be more comfortable.
Look, I'm just saying, hearing Jason Kelsey talk about that time period is one of the more fun things. We'll have to find some time to talk about one of these days. But coming up next, hour number 3, we'll talk about exactly that game, the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans, and how Dusty Hara cursed Jared Goff.
My bad.
All here in hour number 3 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Reynolds Defense Firm. If you've been arrested for a DUI, you need a team of attorneys that you can put your trust into. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan, Tennessee head football coach Josh Heupel says he feels good about his QB Nico Emiliava. His status for this week's game against Georgia. Nico underwent an evaluation for concussion-like symptoms in the second half of the Mississippi State game. He did not return to action. Over in the NBA, Thunder big Chet Holmgren left Sunday's game against the Golden State Warriors after he suffered a pelvic fracture during a hard fall. Holmgren's status will be provided in 8 to 10 weeks. The injury is not expected to be season-ending. He will not necessarily return in those 8 to 10 weeks, just a better understanding of when he will return. The Phoenix Suns, they're going to be without their star Kevin Durant for at least 2 weeks after he suffered a left calf strain over the weekend. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Beavs, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Hour number 3 here on a Monday on Danny and Dusty. Whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan, we appreciate you. We love you. And there's a million things to get to, but we had a wonderfully ugly football game that, look, I'm blaming you, and I'm going to go ahead and send a message to Jared Goff's agent.
That's fair.
For blaming you.
That's fair.
You gave him all the praise in the world, and why
should have had it.
Why aren't we doing all of this, and why aren't we getting this? It's all for Jared Goff. Then Jared Goff went out there and had the worst game of his career.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah. 15 to 30, 240. He did have 2 touchdowns, but 5 interceptions. He had 4 on the entire season, and now he had 5 in one night. That was gross. It was ugly. It was absolutely atrocious quarterbacking by Jared Goff. He looked lost. He looked like he was seeing ghosts, right? He was the Sam Darnold meme. I'm seeing ghosts. But the Detroit Lions, for as bad as Jared Goff played, for as bad as they were over the course of the game, where they were losing 23-7. Think about this. They were down 23-7 with, what was it, 11 minutes to go in the third quarter. Down 23-7. They won the game 26-23. Their defense came up, picked off C.J. Stroud twice in the second half, even though Jared Goff, after both of those interceptions, threw interceptions himself in the second half. Their defense just kept on giving them opportunities to stay in the game. And this Lions team, there's something very real about the resolve to be down by that much. Like, we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs so much, and we need to talk about the Chiefs in the way that they won that game, or the Broncos lost that game yesterday. But the resolve of the Lions, like, winning is a learned trait. We talk about that. We were having that conversation just last week of, look, you've got, with the Bengals, right? It was, you have to have this faith and this belief that you are going to win. The Lions have that. And they were down 23-7, and you're like, gosh, if they can just put it together, defense is playing well enough to win, right? Their offense figured it out. Thank God for Jahmyr Gibbs, because Jahmyr Gibbs was electric down the stretch. And then they have a kicker who ends up making 2 50-yard field goals, a game winner. And both of them, one, I think that first one bounced off the upright. It was like, it grazed it. And then it goes on the other side.
I've never seen a ball come closer and not hit.
And especially from a guy who never kicked. He was never a place kicker in field goal in high school or college. And he's in the NFL?
Look, Just saying that
Hell yeah.
Look, this is the dumbest thing, and we can it gets brought up in sports media all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't there a better pipeline for kickers?
Well, kickers are better than they've ever been before.
I know that, but I mean,
So-
just like when you talk about like.
It's the mentals.
Why has there just been this influx of Aussie kickers, both kickers and punters? It's like,
yeah, I think it's the mentals. I think it's the mental part of it. You know, like it is.
You're saying the Aussies are more mentally strong?
It's pressure. Well, they're not good place kickers,
Hmm.
but to be a place kicker is way different than being a punter.
Sure.
You know, like the pressure being in that moment, like it is so much more difficult.
It's more golf than football, in
And-
the sense of the individual moments.
Yeah, you're also beholden to a holder too. Good snap, a good
Sure.
hold, everything's kind of got to be
The relationship and everything
perfect.
that goes in that.
Laces out Dan,
Mhm.
right? Like you have to have so many things go right.
Yeah, who did we have in the Monday night game a couple
And-
weeks ago who flubbed the snap?
If something goes wrong,
Oof.
you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're screwed. But the Lions became the first team down, I think it was 15 points in the second half and 5 turnovers or 5 interceptions thrown by your quarterback to win a football game. Think about this. They're down 23-7 a half. You're playing a first place team on the road. You lose the time of possession. Your quarterback throws 5 picks. You win the game.
And
How does that happen?
well, Stroud throws 2 bad picks.
But Goff on both of them gave him right back.
I know.
He gave him right back.
So you cancel out 2 of them, which is still insane to think you've got 3 more to work with. And it's Stroud had a couple throws in that game where you just went, holy crap.
Oh, the interception he threw in the end zone where his receiver was wide open.
Yeah.
And he throws a 3-ball, just a nice high arcer, and the safety's like, yep, thank you. Unbelievable.
And he's
Like the head scratching moments
Yeah.
in that one. That's not like indicative of CJ Stroud as a quarterback and what he's going to be in the league. But boy, there were some dumb plays in that game.
The thing that Goff did do is that he somehow, some way avoided the sacks.
Yep.
Like, even though he threw all of the picks, the passes that he did complete ended up being huge. And the Lions absolutely mauled
Yep.
the Texans running game.
Penei Sewell is really good. And the Texans could not get anything going on the offensive
Nothing
side.
going.
Down 23-7 and down late in the game, the Lions were still running the football.
Yeah.
They ran the ball really
They stood to
effectively,
their identity because they weren't down that much.
and the Texans just couldn't do it. And that gave Detroit the life that they needed because incompletion is going to stop the clock. You're going to have more times and more opportunities when you're averaging 2 yards a carry. And Detroit has that DNA, man. They are a damn fun team to watch. Watching Dan Campbell broad on the sideline, watching Jared Goff like literally thank his head coach for that team bailing him out. Detroit is, I love this story. I think it's my favorite storyline in the NFL right now is the Detroit Lions being not just good, but dominant this year because of how much crap they went through for so long. They got Brad Holmes in as GM. They got Dan Campbell as their head coach. They work with great synergy, and they have turned that culture around. That how many iterations of front offices and head coaches have been through there where they had talent too. I mean, they had the best quarterback receiver combo in the National Football League with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson for years. Still couldn't figure it out. They have figured it out top to bottom. They're drafting well. They're filling their roster out. They're developing talent. And it is so fun to watch them play because they have an identity. They never waver from it. And they just continue to pluck away. I love the Lions. I love them.
They are just an absolute demon machine.
Yep.
And the thing about them is as destructive and wantedly as they run through teams physically, they're not even the most egregious version of this. Because it's very clear at this point the Kansas City Chiefs have sacrificed not only some, but all of the goodwill and animals and everything else that is humanly possible in order to be where they are right now. Because there is no way you can tell me that they aren't doing something otherworldly from another dimensional plane. Because I can't. So we'll get to that next. The Chiefs, what the hell are they doing to win these games? Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan.
It's the Vancouver Ford
on the wrong side of so many games. The same way with the Cincinnati Bengals leading into Thursday night's game. The flip side of that, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs have found themselves on the right side of every game now at 9-0. And it does not make any sense as you look through each and every week. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been good.
No, and that's the terrifying part about it, is that we are sitting there going, all right, at some point, he's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out, and all the great ones do, and they still have DeAndre Hopkins, who still's got some miles left on those tires. They are going to figure it out, and they will win games decisively, but the incredible part is that the F around and find out, they're not finding out about any of it.
They've won 9 games. 7 of them have been by 1 score.
Yep.
They're 2 more than 1 score wins. Against the Saints, 26-13, and against the 49ers, missing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That was 28-18. Otherwise, Ravens, 27-20. Bengals by 1, 26-25. 22-17 at the Falcons. 17-10 at the Chargers. Then you have the Saints and 49ers, 27-20 at the Raiders. 30-24 versus the Bucs. 16-14, including a late blocked field goal against the Broncos.
And it doesn't matter, like, Mahomes is getting touched up in the pocket. He was sacked 4 times yesterday by Denver. Denver did everything possible to win that game. And they, by every measure, whether it was the final drive, Bo Nix makes a big throw on a 3rd down to milk more time off the clock so you don't get Patrick Mahomes with a chance to get back on the field. And they call a timeout with 2 seconds to go. And it's like, they are in range. Nix was able to center the ball, so they had the perfect angle for it. And the Kansas City Chiefs block a field goal to win the game. And it was one of like 4 guys could have blocked it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the guy who's catching the most heat for it is a local guy. Alex Forsythe was the tackle on the outside who naturally plays center, and he got tea-kettled on that play. And they went in and blocked. McAfee went in on Forsythe today, saying he should never be on a field goal unit ever again. And
kickers, man, they stick together.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, he's got to sit down in that one. He's up too high, and they run a triple team, and that's why they get underneath him, and he falls back.
Didn't turn out. He was on his heels. Like,
gotta
it was
stay low.
all bad. But you think of Kansas City just finding a way at the very end in winning games. I even asked this question yesterday on Twitter because I just don't even know how to describe it. I honestly, I'm at a loss of words for this. So what word describes the Chiefs? Honestly.
Inevitable.
You took that right out of my mouth.
I was
about to say it.
Yeah. It's like, that's the thing. Is like, look, Baker Mayfield said it without saying a word on that coin flip. He throws his head back.
Yep. Yeah.
Because he knew.
We got inevitable as one of them. Poop was one. Cheaters. Don't know that one. Undefeated. Amazing. Somebody said Miami Hurricanes, which is you mess around too often, it's gonna bite you, but it hasn't yet.
They've messed around 6 times this season.
And here's the thing. Andy Reid isn't going to be the one that screws it up.
No, that's the thing, is that with Reid, you have a coach who I think as much as I'm so glad that he gets his flowers now. This man was vilified in Philadelphia for getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So many times.
Yeah, but this is like what they do. It's not luck though, because
they generate their own.
If it happens enough, it's not luck.
Yeah.
You know, somebody said maybe Taylor Swift actually is a witch, and maybe it is some dark magic that we're dealing with here. I don't know. I'm not going to open myself up to the Swifties.
Rule it out.
I'm not. I will rule it out because I don't want the wrath of the Swifties to come down upon me. But you sit there and you look at that's not soft. You've never been berated by Swifties before, obviously, sir.
I have. I'm a 27-year-old single dude.
Yeah, actually, you lived that life. But at some point, it's not luck, and it's just they find a way. They find a way, whether we want to call it luck or not. They're the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs. They have done it week in and week out. And it's been something different every time. This may have been the most incredible of any of them, though, to where the opposition did everything that, if you want to check every single box of how you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, they checked all of those boxes, the Denver Broncos. Don't give Patrick Mahomes enough time. Pick up. You got to be efficient on third down. They were over 50% on third down.
Touch him up as often as you can.
And they absolutely did that. They were efficient through and through, and they outrushed Kansas City.
Take care of the ball. Like all of the things that you're supposed to do. And like, it's not like the Chiefs ran for 57 yards.
Yeah.
Chiefs ran for 57
Denver
yards.
did everything to win that game. And nope, just didn't happen. That was, to me, when you do it in so many different ways, that's not luck. It's not luck. It's just you find that way to win. And winners may just be the best way to describe them, is that they're just winners. This week they have to go to Buffalo, though. You can't F around against Buffalo and do it, right? But we said that about the Ravens. We said that against the Bengals week 2. We said that about the 49ers. They just absolutely beat the hell out of them. But this is a really damn good team in Buffalo that they have to go on the road to. Like, the game they're probably going to lose is the Raiders at home. Like, that would probably be the one where you're like, what the hell?
I've tried to tell everybody. Every time those two teams get together, throw all of the other stuff out the window. It doesn't make any sense.
Same thing with Denver, though, too. Like, Denver...
The division stuff in the AFC West, man, if you go through, like, all the annals of history and look at it, it's just weird. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my head around why it is what it is. But the hatred between those teams and those divisions, it just seeps into those games, and you just kind of throw everything out.
I think Buffalo's favored.
I think it also, at home.
At home? Yeah.
With
I think it's 3.
And it's going to be a close game, so it's a pick-'em game
and
in
weather.
Vegas. But I think this says a lot about Denver, too, though. They got their teeth kicked in by the Ravens last time they were on the field.
They came back out.
They came back out. They went toe-to-toe. Bo Nix has been playing a lot better. They are void of weapons on the offensive side. They have struggles on the offensive line still. But Bo Nix looks more he was starting to look like that clone of Sean Payton that he wants, of game management and being risk-averse, making enough plays at opportune times.
Did you see the bad snap? Where he had his first fumble in 37 games because of a mishandled snap. But he picks it. It wasn't egregious or anything like that. But it just kind of showed how smart Bo is, in the sense of it was going to be a screenplay, and the timing just gets jacked up because he bobbles it and picks it up off the ground, and free rusher comes because they're running the screen right there. And he, instead of throwing it or trying to make something happen, he just grounds it. And because he threw it forward just enough, but at the ground of the receiver, no harm, no foul.
Yep.
You don't take the negative on the sack. You don't get the intentional grounding. You don't fall on the ball. Like, it was a very smart play in the sense of live to fight another day.
Yeah. That's what he has to be in that offense.
Yes. And I think that, forget all the throws that he made.
Yeah.
That to me was kind of emblematic of smart football. And I was like, because it's a play that's made instantaneously. He doesn't think about it. It's like on to the next. And I think so much of that comes from his last 2 years at Oregon, of just like, hey, look, this one's a loss. We don't need to double down stupid.
Well, taking a lot of those plays at Auburn, definitely learning experiences.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The broadcast said he hadn't fumbled in 37 consecutive games.
And here's the crazy part about them. That Denver team right now, we were talking about, where are the 4-6 Indianapolis Colts and the 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals? They are 8th and 9th. They're chasing the heels of the Denver Broncos
at 5-5.
At 5-5.
That squishy middle of the AFC, man. Like, there's
winnable games for Denver coming up.
6 teams, really, that are like in the mix for 3-4 spots.
I don't think Denver's a playoff team, but
no.
This was a big stride forward, and I think that all of the rookie quarterbacks have looked good. Caleb Williams he's on the struggle bus right now.
You want to talk about that next?
Sure.
All right, let's go ahead and do that, because as much as everybody's talking about Chauncey Billups and whether or not he should continue being coach of the Trailblazers this morning, I thought the Bears were going to make a change coming into this morning after the performance they had this week. And we'll get to that and more. But first, here's Big Will Betts of the SportsCenter Update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge. Online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, one game in the NFL. It's going to wrap up the Week 10 action. Dolphins are traveling to L.A. to take on the Rams. Miami wide receiver Tyreek Hill is questionable. He's still dealing with a wrist injury. Right now, the Rams are favored by 2.5, kick at 5:15. The Big 12 has fined Utah AD Mark Harlan $40,000 and issued a public reprimand for his disparaging comments about the officiating after Utah lost to BYU on Saturday night. This is the biggest fine the Big 12 has levied against an AD in the last decade. Florida State announced that they would be dismissing their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and wide receiver coach after their 52-3 loss to Notre Dame on Saturday. Right now at 1-9, Florida State is currently on pace for their worst football season since 1974. Over in the NBA, Thunder big Chet Holmgren left Sunday's game against the Golden State Warriors after he suffered a pelvic fracture during a hard fall. Holmgren's status will be provided again in 8 to 10 weeks. The injury is not expected to be season-ending. And in Phoenix, the Suns are going to be without their star Kevin Durant for at least 2 weeks. He suffered a left calf strain over the weekend. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL
Chicago Bears are in trouble, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
Goodness gracious. Falling 19-3 to Dusty's New England Patriots.
Juggernaut of a team.
Yikes, dog. I believe the number now is 21 consecutive drives without a touchdown for the Chicago Bears, where it appears the Hail Mary against the Washington Commanders might have actually broken them. Well, that's not true. It's just fun to think about. Caleb Williams has looked like a shell of himself over the last couple of weeks, and I don't think it's teams getting film on him. He just does not look like himself, and I'm not worried about him for the long term, but I'm to be totally honest, I'm surprised that neither Shane Waldron nor Matt Eberflus were fired coming into today.
I am very surprised on that.
Like, one of them, right?
Again, we go back to the lame duck coach, no offensive coordinator worth his salt was going to be like, I want in on that.
Yeah.
And the Bears botched getting the number 1 overall pick and getting a quarterback of the future. By bringing Matt Eberflus back, it was just like, why? Their defense played well at the end of the season. That's why.
How many times have we seen organizationally a team draft a top-level quarterback and not change coaches? Genuinely, like, when has that not really been the case? Like, if they're like, then I'm not even saying that you had to change, but you didn't, like, you weren't going to change the coach in the sense of like, no, we believe in this coach.
Usually you just start from scratch, because if you get that quarterback, it's because you sucked the year before. But here's the thing with the Bears. They weren't the team that was going to have the number 1 overall pick. It's the Carolina Panthers, right? They played well enough at the end of the year to save Matt Eberflus's job, which is biting them in the ass right now. But Ben Johnson will be there next year, maybe. And if that's what your hope is, I mean, that's just not good enough. Here's the thing that's the most disappointing, though, is that organizationally, they went out and they reformed the entire roster to help the transition for Caleb Williams. They went and got him weapons. They drafted a second weapon in the top 10. They went out and they got Keenan Allen. You know, you already had DJ Moore there and Cole Kmet. Yeah, that is the head-scratching part of all of this. Is he has the most weapons of any of the rookie quarterbacks, and right now is playing the worst.
Yeah,
that's coaching. That's coaching.
Yeah.
And it is also Jaden Daniels is really damn good. Drake May is really damn good. Bo Nix is playing really damn well. But none of those guys have the talent around them that Caleb Williams does. No. And it's not, now they were down offensive linemen yesterday. That needs to be noted. But he got sacked 7 times.
Caleb? 9.
9?
Yeah, no, there was more.
9 times.
No, he was running for his life, and in the times that he did.
But that is also your quarterback. You've got to have awareness to get out of there.
Well, and that's
get the ball out of there.
Both those things. Just kind of watching the NFL replays today, Dan Orlovsky was showing how often the Bears only put 2 out. And you see Caleb sitting in the pocket, going back and forth between the 2 targets that he's got in a route because they're trying to offer protection because they can't keep him upright because their offensive line's beat up. And then the flip side of it, there's times.
See, but then if you're Caleb Williams, you got to get rid of the damn ball. And you can't get sacked 9 times.
No, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And the other part about this is they very clearly told him to stop running.
Yeah.
This is a guy who extends plays, keeps things going with his legs, is very improvisational, and he's basically got himself stapled to the pocket now. He doesn't look like himself. And they're not moving him out of the pocket to get him comfortable. They're not putting him in places to succeed at all. And this is Jackson Smith and Jigba being a fortune teller. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Talking about Shane Waldron. Because everything that they're doing right now, Caleb Williams, I don't care if you think I'm the USC honk or whatever. Caleb Williams was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. All of a sudden, he's not.
But he also had some throws in college where you're like, that ain't going to work in the NFL.
Sure.
And they're not working in the NFL right now.
But here's the flip side of this is, and we talked about this the last year coming before the draft.
Their scheme is doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
It's bad.
There was the tracking data company for the NFL. It's the Next Gen Stats. I think it's AWS that they also use on the college side, where they showed ball placement between Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud in college. And they basically show groupings, much like if you go to a target range when you have groupings when you fire. And Caleb Williams was infinitely better than C.J. Stroud's. Like, it was just dot after dot after dot. Now, you had the Super Troopers. Don't worry about that little guy over there, where you're talking about, can't do that. And, like, that was part of what he was. But it was the off-platform. It was the different arm slots, different arm angles, all of the things. And now, you could say that it's nice to have all that stuff, but if you can't do it from the pocket, you can't be a quarterback in the NFL, and I wholeheartedly agree. But everything about Caleb Williams right now doesn't look like him.
And they're not letting him grow while still playing to his strengths and what they are right now. That's the biggest issue that's going on with the Chicago Bears. And I also think it was malfeasance by the Bears to not try to pressure Drake May more.
Mm-hmm.
Drake May was sacked one time. And that is...
It's not like the Bears are short on guys who can
Pro
pressure.
Football Focus, the New England Patriots are the worst pass blocking and run blocking offensive line in the National Football League.
1 sack, 0 tackles for loss, and they only touched him up a couple times, 7 times.
But this is where Drake May is doing what Caleb Williams is not. If it's not there, I'm getting the damn ball out, and I'm not going to get hit because I know my offensive line
taking
sucks.
off and running.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams ran the ball twice, like actively ran the ball twice.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
And some of that is just, he's going to get to a point where he's like, F these guys, they're not going to be here next year anyways. At this point in the year, this is where I would be.
Yeah.
And right now, Jimmy Shapiro, our friend who sends us the betting lines and all this stuff, next head coach to get fired.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Is it Eberflus?
No.
Oh, okay. Who's number one?
Doug Peterson.
Okay.
Minus 125.
Minus money?
People thought he wasn't going to come back from Europe.
125.
Oh my
Doug
God.
Peterson is minus 125. Matt Eberflus plus 150, 3-2 odds.
Okay. I was gonna say plus 200. So those numbers tell me, number one, Peterson's done after this week.
Yeah, they got a line on that bad boy there.
He's done after this week. Who do the Bears have next week?
They go through their
Green Bay?
NFC
He's
North
done.
gauntlet.
Yeah,
They have
Packers,
all their
Vikings,
NFC
Lions.
games left.
Well, what they're doing is they're probably sitting there in the front office saying, "All right, where do we get the fired coach bump?" Because I'll be damned if Darren Rizzi is the new king.
He's got the Riz,
dude. The New Orleans Saints.
Rizzler.
Oh, the Jags have got the Lions this week. They're gonna fire him this week, so that makes it easy. Do you hear this Darren Rizzi guy? Darren Rizzi was awesome. His post-game press conference was nothing but bangers.
Guys, so this is how my day started. I get down here to the stadium, I get down here to Superdome, I go in the head coach's locker room, which I've never used before, right? So here I am early in the morning, I go to the bathroom, and this is how my day started. I clogged the toilet. And I'm like, this is going to be a crappy day, pun intended. And so listen, I'm like, okay, this is now really a great start to the day. Here we go. And so, I'm not really feeling like a head coach of an NFL team right now.
They won 2017. Clogging the toilet. Maybe that's your new ritual, Rizzi.
Yeah.
He brought the Riz. And then he got hurt after the game. Do you see the celebration?
No.
Oh, it was fantastic.
His voice is cooked, so he was very clearly.
This guy, he's a party animal.
He's
very red.
I love this guy.
He loves Jocko.
There's 100% he was like a wrestler at some point, too.
Yeah.
He doesn't have cauliflower ear, but his ears are kind of bent down.
The remnants of.
He's been through the ringer before. This guy loves punishment, loves pain. No, he was seen celebrating on the field, and he was like just dragging an entire side of his body.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that are like, did he like tear his ACL out there? Nope. He's just all about football.
I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. I yelled at Peyton Turner with 30 seconds left because he's celebrating before the game's over, so I screamed at him. And so he's spraying water, and I ripped his ass, quite frankly. So when the game was over, he wanted to get me back. So he came up to me, and I wasn't looking. He jacked me in the back, and I got a history of stingers. So my left arm went completely numb. Literally went completely numb. So I'm sure the video has me like this. I'm looking at my thanks a lot, Peyton. So I'm fine. I got a little C5, C6 going for years from the old. Sound like the old guy, and I am. That's what happened. He gave me a stinger, for lack of a better phrase. I couldn't feel my arm, so my balance was screwed up. I'm fine. Again, I never. And listen, all those other stingers I got in my life, at least I saw them coming. I was prepared for them. This one, I never. I mean, if I'm gonna get hurt. Holy cow!
Gave him the kidney punch. Just gave him the little sucker in the back.
He rules. But you get that. You get that fired coach bump, just like you get the Andy Dalton bump for the Carolina Panthers, which Bryce Young won a football game.
Well, yeah,
2. He's won back-to-back
games. Yeah, against 2 very bad teams, but 2, which he was incapable of doing.
He has more wins in Germany than any other quarterback this season.
Yeah.
Him and Tom Brady, only quarterbacks to win in Germany. People forget.
He's only got 1 less win in Germany than the United States of America, because back-to-back World War champs, Germany was part of both those. People forget.
People don't forget, actually. I think they remember very well that Germany was a part of, especially the second one.
Yeah, well, the second one we all remember. The first one, we kind of let slide. It's like, there's a reason why we came down so hard on them after number 2. It's like, fool us once.
No. Yeah.
Shame on you. Fool us twice. Shame on us. All right? We're not doing this again. But you get the bump. And I feel like Brian Daboll, Doug Peterson is number 1 next coach to get fired. Eberflus is 2. Daboll is 3. Mike McCarthy is 4. And Mike McCarthy, he's got to be in it now that Micah Parsons even said this.
You know, that's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But, you know, all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
You know what the best part is? He's saying that was taken out of context. What part of that is taken out of context, Micah?
It was basically bleep that guy. We don't care about him.
Yeah, he's like, it's he can go wherever and do whatever he wants after he's done. Well, how about he's not the guy I want to hold the trophy up for. Tell that to the Chiefs for Andy Reid. Tell that to the Chargers right now with Jim Harbaugh and what they're doing, right?
Hell, the Commanders with Quinn.
Every single coach of note. Tell that to the Lions and Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
He
can go coach anywhere.
Every coach that has belief, they're like, no, I want to hold the trophy up for him and all of those other guys too. But it's a collective. It's everybody here. Not he can go do whatever he wants. It's Zach Martin who I want to hold the trophy up for. No.
I think the Cowboys
That's not taken out of context, buddy.
They may have liked it better when Micah wasn't healthy, so he wouldn't have media.
He was wrecking crew yesterday, though.
He
looked really damn good.
What was the final score of that game?
It was a lot, too. It was at 31-6.
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
No, they got 34 because I saw him kick a field goal.
Oh, all right.
It was the Sun,
34-6, yeah. Oh, Jerry Jones getting all upset?
Yeah, we didn't have time to talk about that.
Did you guys see what happened in the Sun? Did you hear what happened in McCarthy's press conference today, though?
Please tell me the Sun.
He smashed a watermelon again?
No. Dang it. No, during his press conference, they had to bring a shade up because there was sun coming through the media room. And it was in his eyes, so they put a shade up to protect his face for the TV cameras.
If only they had that for actual games. In the end zone.
Jerry Jones, what, do we want to tear the whole building down? They're like, well, we just asked, maybe curtains or something. Like,
we would turn it?
I don't know. Maybe you should call the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, the Glass Palace. They'll put the curtains up during the day game, so you don't have these problems.
It's all very dumb. What's not very dumb is where we were going to wrap up today's show.
Yep.
The Portland Trailblazers lost a legend, Brian Wheels Wheeler. We will take a few moments to recognize him. Come up next to close today's show. As we wrap up today's show, again, the Portland Trailblazers lose one of their own in Brian Wheeler. Wheels, 21 years with the organization. Had some of the most iconic calls. I didn't hear it live. I heard it replayed, and I'll always remember this. Getting in the car with my dad after Brandon Roy comes back a week removed from surgery for Game 4 of the Dallas Mavericks and has his swan song for the Trailblazers.
Roy has it now against Marion. An all-NBA defender. Brandon gets past him. Jumper in the lane. Banks it in! Time out, Dallas! My eyes don't deceive, so I have to believe.
That one?
Yeah.
That one right there? Hell yeah.
I remember being so knowing that they were going to lose that series. Didn't matter. It was so much bigger than that. We knew what Brandon, that it was going to likely be the end for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling in that arena that night was insane. It was absolutely insane. And it's an unfortunate place to be in that moment, and he captured it so well like he did for 21 years.
No doubt.
Being in the car and hearing Wheels post-game, being out driving around, hearing him call a game on the road. Everybody has their memories. If you're our age, that's something you did.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he's gone now. And just want to say rest in peace, Wheels. We're going to miss you, big guy. And, if you've got stories, if you got any of those, send them to us at Danny and Dusty, at my Twitter, at Dusty's Twitter. And, I'll share as many as I can and as I've done all weekend.
Yeah, and Wheels was going through a lot at the end. His health had declined very rapidly since being replaced as the voice of the Portland Trailblazers. And he was a guy that was always gracious and very kind-spirited and a really kind soul. And that was something that I'll never forget. Like he always went out of his way to make sure that he knew that he appreciated the work that people did and the way that the industry was. You didn't get that a lot. And Wheels was a great guy. He was human. Everybody has their flaws, but Wheels is going to be remembered as, the voice of a generation here in Portland. And he did have to follow the footsteps of Bill Schonely too, which those are huge shoes to fill. And he did it for a really long time here. So